On my 29th birthday, no one showed up and a kind stranger lit my candles. 3 years later, my $35 million company made Forbes, and my family suddenly showed up with cake, flowers, and a proposal. My 29th birthday. I was sitting alone at a fancy restaurant, watching the candles flicker on a cake nobody was there to share, convinced it was the ultimate betrayal. Little did I know, that lonely night would become the most powerful act of liberation I could have ever imagined. The restaurant was buzzing around me, laughter, clinking glasses, the gentle hum of happy conversations. But I was marooned. I'd checked my phone for what felt like the 100th time. Nothing. My fingernail tapped a frantic rhythm against the screen, mirroring the growing ache in my chest. "Should we wait a bit longer for your guests, Miss Lewis?" The waiter's voice was kind, his eyes holding a sympathy that stung more than any pity. He looked from my face to the 4 empty chairs, then to the untouched cake. "Just another 15 minutes, please," I managed, a brittle smile cracking on my face. It was the 3rd time I'd asked. We both knew what it meant. I smoothed the emerald silk of the blouse I'd splurged on, specifically for this night. It felt cool and expensive beneath my fingertips, a stark contrast to the cold not forming in my stomach. 2 weeks earlier, I'd been on top of the world. After 3 years of 18-hour workdays and even taking out a second mortgage on my condo, I'd finally secured $1.2 million in angel investment for my natural skincare startup, Verdant Alchemy Company. Someone finally believed in my vision. Family dinner at Ellison's to celebrate my birthday and some big news. I'd texted our group chat, Thursday at 7. "I'll make reservations for 5. Silence. 3 days of it. I sent a friendly reminder. More silence. Then a 3rd message, trying to project a confidence I didn't feel. Reserve table for 7 p.m. Thursday. Hope to see everyone there. Still nothing. Not from my mom, my dad, or my brother, Theodore. My throat tightened. Honestly, it shouldn't have surprised me. This pattern had been playing out my entire life. When I was 16 and Theodore was 14, my dad took him fishing in Montana for 2 weeks. When I asked why I wasn't invited, Dad just patted my head. "He's a boy, he needs investment. You just need stability." That stability apparently meant me co-signing Theodore's $18,000 motorcycle loan when I was 22, fresh out of college with my own student loans weighing me down. 6 months later, when he stopped making payments, I covered them to save my credit score. My dad? He just gave a distracted nod of thanks while helping Theodore install custom pipes on the bike. My family was always there for me, just not in the ways that truly mattered. Not in ways that made me feel seen. "Excuse me." I looked up to see a man standing by my table. Tall, with salt and pepper hair, and kind eyes behind tortoiseshell glasses. His charcoal suit looked tailor-made. "I don't mean to intrude," he said, his voice warm and rich, "but I couldn't help noticing it might be your birthday." He gestured toward the small cake. "It is," I managed, my fingers clenching around my wine glass. I should have politely dismissed him. But instead, I heard myself say, "Thank you." "Would you mind if I joined you for a moment?" he asked. "Just until your other guests arrive." Something in his expression, genuine kindness, not pity, made me nod. "I'm Farah. Alexander." He settled into the chair across from me. "I'm a writer. Books about resilience, mostly. Though I suspect you know something about that already." He smiled, his eyes crinkling. I laughed, a sound that surprised me. "Are you always this perceptive with strangers?" "Occupational hazard." He gestured to the waiter, who lit the candles on my cake. Their glow reflected in Alexander's glasses as he asked, "So what brought you here tonight? All dressed up and waiting so patiently." I hesitated, then decided the truth was simpler. I just secured a major investment for my company. Thought my family might want to celebrate. He nodded, understanding dawning. "And they're running late?" "They're not coming," I said, the words tasting bitter. They didn't even respond to my messages. Then they're missing something extraordinary. Alexander leaned forward, his forearms on the table. "Tell me about this company that earned such impressive investment." For a moment, I considered changing the subject. But then something inside me shifted. Why not enjoy this birthday despite their absence? Why not share my triumph with someone who actually seemed interested? Verdant alchemy, I said, a genuine smile finally spreading across my face. Natural skincare products, sourced from sustainable farms. I pulled out my phone, showing him our sleek website. We're planning to expand our production facilities with the new funding. Remarkable, Alexander said, studying the images. When he looked up, his admiration felt like sunshine after days of rain. Someone should be celebrating your brilliance tonight. His words unlocked something in my chest. As I blew out the candles, I made a different wish than I'd planned. Not for my family's approval, but for the strength to stop waiting for it. I won't wait for their approval anymore, I whispered, more to myself than to Alexander. The hardest lesson, he said softly, is learning that some people can't give what they don't possess themselves. As we shared cake beneath the restaurant's warm lights, I found myself telling Alexander everything. About Theodore's motorcycle. About decades of showing up for a family that rarely showed up for me. About building my company while my parents focused on my brother's series of failed ventures. The strange thing is, I confessed, I think a part of me still loves them, despite everything. Love and boundaries aren't mutually exclusive, Alexander replied. In fact, the healthiest love requires them. For the first time in years, I felt truly seen, and suddenly, that was enough. 3 years flew by. Morning sunlight spilled across my balcony, turning the rim of my coffee cup golden as I breathed in the crisp Boulder air. The distant flatirons cut jagged silhouettes against a cloudless sky. The universe, it seemed, had rewarded my quiet determination with abundance. My phone chirped, another share of yesterday's interview. Verdant Alchemy's journey from my kitchen counter to a $35 million valuation. 500,000 views. The new face of natural beauty, one comment read. If only they knew how unnatural family could be. My phone buzzed again, this time with a call. The name made my stomach clench. Mom. We'd barely spoken in 3 years, beyond obligatory holiday texts and stilted coffee meetings. I considered letting it go to voicemail, but slid my finger across the screen. Farah, honey. Her voice dripped with a sugary sweetness I hadn't heard since high school graduation. Did you see my messages? No, I was just Theodore's getting married. Can you believe it? Our boy, finally settling down with Jessica. We'd love your help with planning the celebration. I gripped the phone tighter. That's wonderful news. When's the wedding? June. Listen, sweetheart. We've been talking, your father and I, and we think this would be the perfect time for a Lewis family collaboration. Lewis Beauty has such a nice ring. We've always been your biggest supporters. The lie stung, sharp and immediate. I stared at the Forbes magazine on my coffee table, my company profile beaming from its pages. I need to think about that, I managed, my professional voice sliding into place like armor. Of course, honey. Call me back this afternoon. After we disconnected, another message chimed. Theodore. Hey sis. Big news about the wedding. Also, my racing team needs a primary sponsor. Only $300,000 for the season. Great exposure for Verdant. Let me know. I placed my phone face down. The view from my penthouse suddenly felt isolating, not peaceful. Later that morning, I sat in my office, reviewing old family photos stored in a dusty folder on my laptop. Theodore receiving his high school diploma, Mom and Dad beaming beside his first racing car. My college graduation, just me, alone in cap and gown, because they'd attended Theodore's regional race that weekend. My phone chimed with a voicemail from Alexander. Just saw your interview. Brilliant as always. Remember who you became despite them, not because of them. Dinner tonight. I opened a new spreadsheet, titled it Family Financial History. Line by line, I documented every loan, gift, and bailout. Theodore's motorcycle. The 6 months of his rent I covered when he dropped out of community college. Dad's fishing boat repairs when Theodore crashed it during a joyride. The spreadsheet swelled to $47,000 of silent support. This isn't about punishment, I whispered to the empty office. It's about boundaries. My CFO Martin knocked before entering. Everything okay? He asked, noticing my expression. Family matters, I said. If my brother or parents reach out about business opportunities or sponsorship, please direct them to me. Martin nodded. Legally speaking, you have no obligation to entangle family with the company. I know, I said, thanking him. My phone lit up with a text from Rachel, my oldest friend. Saw Theodore's FB post about needing sponsors. Let me guess, he's hitting you up. They didn't celebrate you. Why fund them? I smiled despite myself. Rachel always cut to the heart of things. A card arrived via courier that afternoon. Alexander's distinctive handwriting. Inside, a quote, "Boundaries aren't walls. They're the foundation upon which healthy relationships are built." By evening, I'd crafted an email that felt both businesslike and final. I attached the spreadsheet detailing the $47,000 in financial support I'd provided. If we're going to collaborate, I wrote, let's start from zero with full transparency. I hesitated, wondering if I was being too harsh. Then I remembered my 29th birthday candles flickering in an empty restaurant. My finger tapped the screen. Send. My mother's reply arrived within minutes. Explosive and familiar. How dare you talk like that? Didn't we raise you to be grateful? After everything we've done for you. I took a deep breath and typed my response, each word a quiet declaration of freedom. I was grateful in silence, in money, in tears. Now I'm grateful to myself for finally stopping. When Alexander arrived for dinner, he found me on the balcony, watching stars emerge above the Flatirons. He didn't ask about my day. He simply stood beside me, his presence a ballast against the storm of emotions. They want to use me, I said finally, not celebrate me. And what do you want? He asked, his voice gentle. I turned to face him, feeling stronger than I had in years. To stop confusing obligation with love. He smiled, taking my hand. Then that's exactly what you'll do. As we headed inside, my phone chimed with more messages from my family. For the first time in my life, I left them unanswered. A week later, the receptionist's voice crackled through my office intercom. Miss Lewis, your mother and brother are here. They say it's urgent. My marketing director raised an eyebrow. 5 other executives paused their note-taking, pens hovering. Tell them I'm in a meeting, I replied, forcing a professional smile. I'll be out shortly. The intercom clicked again. They insist on waiting. They brought cake. A familiar tension coiled at the base of my neck. My family never visited during the 3 struggling years when I worked 16-hour days in a cramped one-room office. Now that Verdant Alchemy occupied the entire 4th floor of a downtown building with our name on the directory, they discovered an urgent need to see me. 10-minute break, everyone, I announced, setting down my presentation pointer with deliberate calm. Greg, prepare the distribution figures for when we resume. In the reception area, my mother held a bakery box with both hands like a peace offering. Her hair was freshly colored. Her cream-colored blazer likely cost more than my first month's rent. Theodore stood beside her, hands jammed in the pockets of designer jeans, a calculated casual look. Surprise, my mother trilled, lifting the cake box. We thought we'd stop by and celebrate your Forbes feature. No hard feelings about missing your calls lately. The receptionist watched with undisguised curiosity. How thoughtful, I said, acutely aware of my staff watching this performance. Let's talk in the conference room. My mother's eyes swept across our modern workspace, taking inventory of the exposed brick walls, the Edison bulb lighting, the sleek workstations. Theodore trailed behind us, pausing to examine a display case holding our best-selling facial serum. You must be making a fortune from these little things, he remarked, tapping the glass. My marketing director emerged from her office. Jessica, Theodore said, flashing the smile that charmed his way through college. Don't you look fantastic? Still handling my sister's advertising. Jessica's professional smile never wavered. Director of Brand Strategy now. Pleasure seeing you again, Theodore. I guided them toward the small conference room, away from curious eyes and ears. My mother ran her fingertip along a walnut tabletop. $16,000 for this table alone, I'd wager, she whispered, not quite quietly enough. Once the door closed, I turned to face them. This is my workplace, not a family reunion venue. Why are you really here? My mother set the cake down, hurt flashing across her features. Can't we visit our successful daughter without an agenda? Theodore sprawled in one of the leather chairs. Yeah, sis, don't be so suspicious. The last time we spoke, I reminded him, you asked for $300,000 for your racing team. The time before that, Mother hinted about your wedding costs. Forgive me for suspecting this isn't just a social call. My mother's expression hardened. You've changed. Success has made you cold. I haven't changed, I countered, remaining standing while they sat. I've just stopped pretending. Theodore leaned forward. Come on, sis. We're family. That means something. The word family hung between us, weighted with expectations, with history, with the motorcycle loan I paid off, with birthdays spent alone. Yes, it does, I agreed, my voice steady. Family should mean love without invoices, support without conditions, celebration without calculation. My mother's eyes narrowed. After all we've sacrificed for you. What exactly did you sacrifice? The question escaped before I could filter it. When I needed co-signers for my first business loan, you said it was too risky. When I worked 18-hour days launching this company, you never once brought me cake. When I celebrated a loan at Ellison's on my birthday, your phones were apparently all broken simultaneously. Theodore shifted uncomfortably. That's not fair. What's not fair is using family as currency, I interrupted. I don't need family only when I'm successful. I don't need cake only when there's something in it for you. We've always been proud of you, Mother insisted, but her eyes darted toward the door, calculating her next move. I believe you, I said, softening my tone slightly. But I've learned to live without pretending. I'll always love you both, but this company isn't a family ATM. My success doesn't create an obligation. My mother gathered her designer handbag, straightening her shoulders. I see we've caught you at a bad time. Anytime you come with expectations rather than genuine support will be a bad time, I replied. They left with stiff goodbyes and promises to call later. Through the glass walls, I watched them cross the reception area, Mother's back rigid with indignation, Theodore's stride betraying his frustration. When the elevator doors closed, I exhaled fully for what felt like the first time in an hour. My phone buzzed with a text from Alexander. Coffee after your ambush? Proud of you for standing your ground. Word travels fast. Rachel must have heard from Jessica. Another text arrived from my business partner. Take some time if needed. 10 minutes later, my mentor called. How are you holding up? She asked, her voice carrying the wisdom of someone who's navigated similar waters. Better than expected, I answered truthfully. That evening, I drafted an email declining Theodore's wedding invitation, attaching a generous but appropriate gift card. I created clear guidelines for future communications with my parents. My financial advisor helped establish a trust for genuine family emergencies, not demands. When I finished, I poured a glass of Cabernet and stood at my condo window overlooking Boulder's twinkling lights. For the first time, I understood that boundaries aren't walls built from anger. They're fences constructed with self-respect. Later that night, my phone pinged. Theodore's Facebook status glowed on my screen. Some people only care about money, not family. Already, mutual friends were tagging me, the gossip spreading like wildfire. My finger hovered over the keyboard, a dozen responses forming and dissolving in my mind. Then Alexander's text arrived. Remember, your truth doesn't need defending. I set my phone down, choosing dignity over defensiveness. The chapter of apologizing for my boundaries had ended. The story of living with integrity had only begun. 2 days after the confrontation, the cursor blinked on my screen, mocking me. I'd typed and deleted the same response 14 times. Theodore's Facebook post glared from my laptop. Some people only care about money, not family. Blood used to mean something. I exhaled slowly, fingers hovering. The knot in my stomach tightened as friends tagged me in comments, asking if there was family drama. 3 college acquaintances had already messaged if I was okay. The living room window framed Boulder's mountains, bathed in early morning light. I'd been sitting here since 5 a.m., nursing coffee gone cold, thinking about legacies and lies. I typed carefully, reading each word twice. Family isn't a debt. It's a place where love should be unconditional. I hope everyone finds that place, including me. My thumb hovered over post for 8 seconds before pressing down. Done. No lengthy explanation. No accusations. Just truth. Within minutes, notifications flooded my phone. Friends from business school. Former colleagues. Even my third-grade teacher who somehow found me on social media. Stay strong, Farah. Been there. You're handling this with such grace. This resonates deeply. Thank you for your honesty. I set my phone face down, breathing into the silence. Strange how 15 words could feel like shedding a 100-pound backpack. The landline rang, the number I gave only to business associates and close friends. Rachel's voice came through, warm and steady. I saw your post. You okay? Better than I expected. I curled deeper into my armchair, watching a hummingbird dart around my balcony feeder. It feels clean. Clean is good. Rachel paused. Theodore's gone nuclear in the family group chat. Your mother called me this morning asking if I could talk some sense into you. My laugh came out sharper than intended. And what did you tell her? That you made perfect sense already. The smile in Rachel's voice faded. Listen, they're calling around. Your father phoned James from the Chamber of Commerce breakfast group. The hummingbird froze midair, then zipped away as a shadow passed. Trying to damage control by rewriting history? Pretty much. Something about how they've supported your business from day one, but you've grown distant since becoming successful. I pressed my fingertips against closed eyelids until stars appeared. 22 investors believed in my company before my parents did. They never even asked what Verdant Alchemy made until the Forbes feature. I know, honey. Just giving you the heads up. Oh, and your mother's church prayer group got an earful about her troubled daughter, who's forgotten her values. The familiar weight settled back between my shoulder blades. Right on schedule. After Rachel's call, I showered and dressed carefully. Forest green silk blouse. Tailored black pants. Simple gold earrings. Armor for the day ahead. My assistant Emma met me at the office door, coffee extended like a shield. 3 calls from someone named Theodore. Should I keep walking? Yes, please. I accepted the coffee with a grateful nod. Any messages from investors? Emma's expression shifted. Mr. Harrington from Keystone Capital called. Said your brother contacted him with concerns about company stability. He seemed confused. Heat flashed across my face, my fingers tightening around the cup. Theodore actually contacted my investors? The boundary violation staggered me. Call Mr. Harrington back immediately. Schedule a lunch if he's available. 2 hours later, I sat across from James Harrington at Ellison's, the same restaurant where this journey began 3 years ago. The irony wasn't lost on me. I appreciate your time, I began, meeting his gaze directly. I understand my brother contacted you. James nodded, leaning back in his chair, his gray eyebrows knit together. Said something about family troubles affecting business decisions. Wanted to warn me. He studied me over his reading glasses. Not very professional. No, I agreed. Family and business are separate entities in my world, James. Always have been. Good. He unfolded his napkin with deliberate care. The quarterly reports speak for themselves, Farah. 28% growth doesn't lie. The knot in my stomach loosened slightly. Thank you for your continued confidence. Your brother seemed entitled to your success. James chose his words carefully. Mentioned something about family collaboration being owed to him. Owed. I didn't flinch. There will be no collaboration. Smart call. He picked up his menu. Now, shall we order? I hear the salmon is excellent. Back at the office, I pulled up the application form for the Verdant Foundation, my newest project, supporting young female entrepreneurs. The cursor blinked, steady now rather than mocking. I filled in the final details, then pressed launch. Later that evening, I received the notification that my donation to the Colorado Motorcycle Safety Initiative had been processed. $20,000. Anonymous. No press release. No social media announcement. Just quiet action. My phone buzzed with a message from my father. Your mother is devastated. This public humiliation is beneath you, Farah. I set the phone aside without responding and poured a glass of wine. The Verdant Foundation website had already received 12 applications. My inbox contained 3 interview requests from business journals, non-mentioning family drama, all focused on company growth and environmental initiatives. When the doorbell rang at 7, Alexander stood there, holding takeout bags. His eyes crinkled at the corners. Thought you might not want to go out tonight. You thought right. I stepped aside to let him in. Theodore contacted my investors. Alexander set the food down, his expression darkening. That crosses every line. They didn't buy it. I pulled plates from the cabinet. Turns out consistent professionalism speaks louder than desperate accusations. Of course it does. Alexander unpacked containers of Thai food. Your restraint is remarkable, Farah. Most people would have responded with matching fire. I shrugged, but warmth bloomed in my chest. Fire just makes more smoke. I'm interested in clarity. We ate on the balcony, watching the sunset paint Boulder's mountains in amber and gold. My phone buzzed repeatedly. Theodore's fiancé now, saying they needed to clear the air before the wedding. Did you see the comment from Sandra Werner? Alexander asked, refilling my wine glass. Theodore's racing sponsor? No. What did she say? That she's reconsidering their partnership after recent revelations about character. He raised an eyebrow. Apparently your mother's version of events reached her, but backfired. I took a slow sip of wine. I never asked for that. You didn't have to. Truth has a way of finding daylight. As night fell, my email pinged with a message from Diane, my business mentor. Proud of you. Leading a webinar next month on ethical business practices. Keynote spot has your name on it if you want it. Later, as Alexander prepared to leave, he paused at the door. You know they're only escalating because they're losing control, right? I nodded. I know. I can feel the cracks forming. Your mother called Rachel again, apparently. Less confident this time. Used the phrase, might have pushed too hard. Something shifted inside me, not satisfaction exactly, but vindication. Did she now? And I ran into your father at the coffee shop this morning. He looked contemplative. Said something about wishing they'd invested in your company from the beginning. I leaned against the doorframe, suddenly tired. 3 years too late for that realization. Alexander touched my shoulder gently. But not too late for you to live your truth. After he left, I sat on the balcony in darkness, laptop open to Theodore's latest group chat message. She's destroyed this family with her selfishness. Below it, a surprising response from his fiancée, Melissa. Maybe we should all step back and think about what we're asking from her? I closed the laptop. Tomorrow would bring more accusations, more attempts to rewrite history. But tonight, I discovered that silence, too, could be strength. Sometimes, the most powerful response is simply to keep building while others try to burn. The voicemail from my mother played for the third time, her voice wavering with practiced vulnerability. Farah, sweetheart, I know things have been strained. But we're still your parents, no matter what. Some bonds can't be broken even when they stretch. I pressed delete and set my phone on the kitchen counter. The late sunshine spilled through my condo windows. Against my better judgment, I picked up the envelope that arrived yesterday, ivory cardstock with gold foil edging. Theodore's wedding invitation. The handwritten note tucked inside. Time for family healing. We miss you, Mom and Dad. My stomach twisted. 3 weeks of this campaign now, the carefully timed calls, the texts dripping with apologies that somehow still managed to avoid acknowledging any actual wrongdoing. Just yesterday, Jessica, Theodore's fiancée, left a voicemail about building bridges before the big day. Is this seat taken? I looked up to find Alexander in my doorway, coat draped over his arm, a paper bag from Spruce Bakery in his hand. My shoulders relaxed at the sight of him. Only by ghosts and guilt trips, I said, sliding the invitation across the counter. Latest artillery in the reconciliation campaign. Alexander set down 2 coffees and studied the invitation. Quite the production. The wedding at the Brown Palace? Someone's parents are feeling generous. Or someone's sister is expected to be. I took a grateful sip of the coffee he'd brought, dark roast with a splash of almond milk. Exactly how I like it. And what about these? Alexander gestured toward the stack of photo albums on my coffee table. Recent arrivals? FedEx delivery yesterday. Family albums dating back to my 5th birthday, complete with post-it notes marking special memories. This one says, "Remember Christmas 1998? You were so excited about the family tradition." Subtle, Alexander said, his mouth quirking. My phone buzzed with another text. Theodore. Dad mentioned his blood pressure's been high lately. Really hoping you'll reconsider coming to the wedding. Would mean a lot to all of us. Alexander caught my expression. More health concerns? Theodore says Dad's blood pressure is up. I set the phone down. Last week it was Mom's migraines. They're getting creative, Alexander noted. How are you holding up? I traced the rim of my coffee cup. I keep thinking I should feel worse about all this. Shouldn't I be torn apart? Sobbing over photo albums at midnight. And you're not. I feel tired. Like I'm watching a movie I've seen too many times. I met his eyes. Is that cold? Alexander considered this, the morning light catching the silver at his temples. I don't think it's cold. I think it's clarity. After years of the same pattern, you've stopped mistaking familiarity for obligation. I don't want to hate them, I said quietly. Boundaries aren't about hate, they're about health, Alexander's voice gentled. You can forgive someone without resuming the same relationship. Something shifted inside me at his words, a tightness loosening. Forgiveness without restoration. Exactly. You can acknowledge the love that exists while recognizing its limitations. Alexander sipped his coffee. What would a healthy relationship with your family actually look like? I'd never really considered this question before. My options always seemed binary. Give them everything or sever all ties. But perhaps there was middle ground, territory I could map myself. Limited contact, I began slowly. Scheduled interactions in neutral public places. No business entanglements. And clear expectations of mutual respect. Alexander nodded. That sounds reasonable. But will they accept it? Theodore's wedding is soon. The question isn't whether they'll accept it, Alexander said. It's whether you can enforce it regardless of their reaction. I straightened my shoulders. I can. Later that evening, with Alexander's perspective still fresh in my mind, I drafted an email to my family. No accusations, no itemized lists of past wrongs, just clear, forward-facing boundaries. I outlined the terms under which I was willing to attend Theodore's wedding and maintain a relationship moving forward. When I finally clicked send, something shifted inside me. Not the weightlessness of escape, but the solid certainty of choosing my own path. On the wedding day, I stood in the glittering ballroom of the Brown Palace Hotel, a glass of champagne cooling my palm. The ceremony had concluded 30 minutes ago, and now the reception swirled around me, distant relatives circulating like curious fish, my parents' friends eyeing me with speculation. Alexander stood beside me in a charcoal suit, his presence a steady anchor. Theodore approached, champagne in hand, his new wife Jessica beside him. You made it, he said, surprise evident despite our email exchanges confirming my attendance. And you brought a date. Alexander, I introduced simply. Congratulations to you both. Jessica smiled warmly. Thank you for coming, Farah. Your gift was so thoughtful. The leather-bound financial planning book and modest check, generous but appropriate, sat alongside crystal vases and silver serving trays on the gift table. The card attached read, wishing you a partnership built on mutual support and respect. Love, Farah. Farah, Theodore shifted uncomfortably. Listen, Farah. About the racing team. Alexander's hand touched my waist lightly, a subtle reminder of our agreement. Today is about your marriage, Theo, I interrupted gently. Let's keep it that way. Theodore's jaw tightened momentarily before he nodded. Right, of course. He glanced at Alexander. So, how did you two meet? Over birthday candles, Alexander answered smoothly, saving me from having to explain that night 3 years ago. We exchanged a few more pleasantries before they moved on. Holding up, Alexander murmured. Better than expected. As if summoned, my mother appeared at my elbow, elegant in pale blue chiffon, her perfume a cloud of gardenias and expectation. Darling, could I steal you for just a moment? Her smile included Alexander, but excluded him simultaneously. Family matters. I met Alexander's eyes. I'll be right back. Mother guided me to a quiet alcove near the dessert table, her fingers light but insistent on my arm. Once we were alone, her smile dimmed. You look lovely, Farah, she began. But I must say, your father and I were hurt by that email. Setting terms for attending your own brother's wedding, it felt very cold. I took a careful breath. I needed clarity about expectations. We're family, she said, as if this single word should override all other considerations. Family supports each other without conditions. That support should flow both ways, Mom. My voice remained steady. I love you, but I've learned to love myself too. Something flickered in her eyes, frustration, perhaps, or the first recognition that her tactics no longer worked on me. Your father and I won't be around forever, you know. I know, I said gently. And when you need me, truly need me, I'll be there. But what you're asking for isn't need. It's entitlement. She stared at me, this daughter who no longer bent to guilt. You've changed, Farah. I have, I agreed, but I still love you. I checked my watch. We'd been at the reception for 2 hours and 45 minutes. Alexander and I should be going soon. Early meeting tomorrow. My mother opened her mouth as if to protest, then closed it again. For the first time in my life, I saw her accept a boundary I'd set, without pushing against it. Will you call next week? She asked, her voice smaller than I'm used to hearing it. Sunday afternoon, I confirmed. For 30 minutes, as we agreed in the email. As we rejoined the celebration, I spotted Theodore watching us from across the room. Our eyes met, and something passed between us, not warmth exactly, but perhaps the beginning of respect. He raised his glass slightly, a gesture both acknowledgement and surrender. Alexander's hand found mine as we made our way toward the exit. Ready? I looked back once at my family, mother returning to father's side, Theodore dancing with his bride, the constellation of relatives and friends, spinning in their familiar orbits. They would continue without me tonight, and I would return on my own terms another day. Yes, I said, squeezing Alexander's hand. I'm ready. A year later, the birthday candles flickered in my kitchen, casting a warm glow across the faces gathered around my marble island counter. Alexander stood beside me, his shoulder brushing mine as he adjusted his glasses and smiled. Rachel raised her wine glass, the ruby liquid catching the light. To choosing your family and your future, she toasted, her voice steady and sure. The small gathering, 5 people who genuinely wanted to be here, erupted in cheers. My heart swelled as I surveyed my home, filled with the gentle hum of conversation and laughter. No empty chairs. No checking my phone every 5 minutes. No brittle smile pasted on my face. Make a wish, Alexander whispered, his breath warm against my ear. I closed my eyes, but for once, I struggled to think of what to wish for. My business hit a $45 million valuation last quarter. The entrepreneurship book Alexander and I wrote sat proudly on my coffee table, its cover embossed with gold lettering. And most importantly, the gnawing ache of family disappointment had faded to a distant memory. I blew out the candles in one decisive breath. Same restaurant as 4 years ago, Rachel observed, cutting into the chocolate cake, but completely different energy. Different company makes all the difference, I replied, accepting a plate from her. Later, as guests mingled in my living room, I slipped away to my study. My leather-bound journal waited in the desk drawer. I traced my fingers over today's entry. Love doesn't require sacrifice of self. These years of therapy helped me understand that boundaries aren't walls, they're healthy fences with gates I control. My family and I maintained a cordial relationship now. I attended holiday dinners when it felt right. Theodore brought his wife. My parents asked about my business without suggesting how to run it. We'd found a balance. I could love them without surrendering my peace. The doorbell chimed. A young woman named Jessica stood on my threshold, clutching a notebook. She was one of 5 entrepreneurs I mentored through my foundation. Sorry to crash your party, she said, twisting her hands nervously. But I've been offered a partnership with my father's business, and I don't know how to tell him I want to build something of my own. I ushered her inside. Family business pressure? She nodded, eyes downcast. He's invested so much. I feel obligated. Obligation and love are different currencies, I told her, pouring her a cup of coffee. One depletes you, the other fills you up. As I guided Jessica through separating her father's dreams from her own, I realized how far I'd come. The woman who once paid off her brother's motorcycle loan without complaint now taught others to honor their own worth. In the kitchen, Alexander lit a single candle on the remaining slice of cake. We blew it out together, our fingers intertwined. Our book, dedicated to dreamers who found themselves alone at pivotal moments, had already helped countless others recognize their own worth. Do you ever wish they had shown up that night years ago? Alexander asked, referring to my lonely birthday when we first met. I shook my head, a soft smile playing across my lips. No, because if they had, I might never have met the man who taught me that kindness can come from anyone, even a stranger. Later, we stood on my balcony, watching the sunset paint the skyline in strokes of amber and gold. City lights began to twinkle one by one. Alexander appeared with 2 glasses of Cabernet, the same wine I'd ordered that fateful night. Any regrets about your journey? He asked, handing me a glass. I took a sip, savoring the rich complexity. Sometimes, I said, the loneliest birthday becomes the first gift of freedom and the beginning of a beautiful connection. The wine tasted of celebration now, not solitude. As darkness settled over the city, I realized that the birthday candles that once burned alone now lit a path forward, surrounded by people who chose to be present, not merely obligated to appear.